So the words techno-socialism conjured up in my idea an image of Elon Musk talking about universal basic income because of AI.
Yes, and I think that's one of the things we discuss, absolutely. UBI and universal basic asset structures, we definitely get into that. The sort of core message around it is essentially that the potential for AI to create increased inequality and therefore, have a more adverse social impact is very high based on what we know of the way capital markets and economics and, wage growth and all of that is currently structured. And so if you look at Brexit and Trump as symptoms of economic uncertainty rather than sort of politics, then you can see that this is all connected to the concerns people have about, are they going to have jobs in the future? Will their kids have a safe planet to live on? And all of that pressure as AI comes into the ecosystem will get more acute. And so ultimately, we are of the belief that social pressure will require a more equitable distribution of wealth. Whether that is done through government means or through other means is really the question which we explore.
Yeah, never before have we seen that the power to create wealth through technology has been concentrated on the hands of the few, namely the experts in machine learning and AI.
So yeah, absolutely. Part of the sort of acceleration of discussion around artificial intelligence is obviously we've made a considerable progress in the short term. The reason for that sort of increase in velocity of discussion around AI is really a core shift that happened early in the 2000s around the way we programmed AI. And so, we went from expert systems, which tried to encode human behavior writ large. So if you were programming a chess machine or a chess algorithm to beat a human chess player, you would encode all of the different strategies that opponent might use. And so basically you hard code the human behavior into the system. But that changed when we developed machine learning. And this was essentially based on neural nets, a sort of software-based representation of the way the human brain works. And we used this to start to teach machines how to learn to do stuff. And so the first real example of that was successful in the wild was IBM Watson's playing Jeopardy and beating humans at Jeopardy. And so that was a case where, you couldn't have known all the answers to the questions.
Right.
And so instead, what it was taught was how to understand the question, how to frame a response, and then how to assess its likelihood of success. And so Watson wouldn't answer questions that it wasn't at least 50% sure that it had the right answer to. And so, that was sort of a great example of that. And then, of course, Lee Sedol being beaten by AlphaGo, the algorithm around playing games. So Elon Musk and Jack Ma, I don't know whether you saw recently, they had a conversation on stage. I think it was in the Middle East. But and Elon says, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we keep moving the goalposts. So we said, once a computer could beat a human at chess, that was a sign of some sort of form of intelligence. And then now it's you've got to beat a game show, humans at a game show. And then it was, no, you got to beat Go, a human at Go, because that's the most complex board game that we have.
That was so surprising.
And so we keep moving the goalposts in terms of what is AI, but we keep hitting those. And so ultimately, this only goes one way. We get extremely competent algorithms that can do a lot of the stuff that humans do. And, that's where we spend far too much time debating whether AI is going to happen. Instead of just saying, look, it's likely going to happen. Capital markets are engineered to make this sort of thing happen through, productivity gains and share price and all that sort of stuff. So in the likelihood that it happens, how would we deal with that as a society? And we're just not very good at having that conversation.
Yeah,
We're not very good at preparing our kids for that future, etc. Right?
You're right about the goalposts being moved. I mean, I started playing Go about 17 years ago, and about 2 years into my gaming, I was reading papers about like how we're never going to have like a computer being able to defeat us at Go, and now that happened, 10 years later, pretty much, and then that now humans can beat the best pro gamers at games that are pretty much the most advanced in terms of real-time strategy, which is Dota. There's basically 5 independent machines, AI systems or machine learning systems that they collaborated. And so now the goalpost, we don't really know where the goalpost is now.
And I think that's, it's going to get to the point where, because what you said is quite insightful, is that we don't really understand what these algorithms are doing.
That's right.
And at that point, when we don't really understand, well, how can we have an element of control over that situation when it's black box? Already we've seen evidence of, machines respond in ways that aren't intuitive to humans. And, the AlphaGo beating Lee Sedol is a good example of that, because if you listen to the commentator, when he was, and I can't remember his name, but he was also a Go champion, when they're watching the match which was the decisive match in that series. Mm-hmm. And the commentator was like, oh my, that's incredible, because, and Lee Sedol had his head in his hands because he'd worked out the machine had beaten him, but he didn't see it coming because it was not a classical human move. It was counterintuitive from a human perspective. And so, machines, when they're given a task that is, solve this problem or get from point A to point B, they may find more efficient ways of doing that compared with the way humans think about problem solving. And at that point, we may say, well, how did it do that? We won't really know. But the question is, will we care if the outcome is positive and produces the net result?